Hello and welcome back to another Behavior Support Specialist video from Albuquerque Public Schools. Today we're going to talk about social emotional learning and answer the big question on everyone's mind. What is it? So as usual, I like to start by introducing myself. Who am I? My name is Molly Keys. I am a Behavior Support Specialist for Albuquerque Public Schools. I'm also a UNM instructor, a research nerd, and an educator. I've taught in grades 1st through 8th. So today's presentation is going to be a bit longer than I normally like to do, but I really feel like it's important that we build all of this knowledge in one fell swoop. So today we have a lot of talking points. We're going to start by diving into the definition of social emotional learning. We're going to talk about the organization Casel that kind of created the components that Albuquerque Public Schools follows for SEL. Then we're going to transition into those components before looking at some research, looking at the benefits of SEL, and then finally touching on the vital importance of SEL during this COVID crisis. So to start off, the definition of SEL, or social emotional learning, according to Casel, is social and emotional learning is the process through which children and adults understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. So in essence, SEL is the components which drive us into a successful life. It's what helps us to maintain relationships, be aware of society around us, and participate in our world. SEL skills are vital for our learners and ourselves. So I've referenced the organization Casel a few times. They were founded back in 1994, and they're a nonprofit group that supports high-quality education and research-based practices in SEL. They provide resources for educators, they give us tips and guidance and all kinds of great tools. They also perform research themselves, and some of the research that we'll see later on in this video comes from Casel. They've also, most importantly, created the competencies and guidance for public schools for bringing SEL into their classroom. Albuquerque Public Schools has adopted their competencies as the competencies that we will follow. And we can think of those competencies essentially as standards. They are the standards that guide our instruction in social emotional learning. So what are those 5 competencies? Well, we're going to look at them in depth now. They are called self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. Self-awareness is all about, as the title says, being aware of yourself. It's recognizing your own emotions, thinking about your values and your thoughts and how they influence your behavior. It's also being able to see yourself as you truly are with confidence and optimism. It's about being able to see your strengths and balance that with your limitations. Next up is self-management. Self-management is all about being able to self-regulate. It's regulating your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors across different situations, while also managing your stress, managing your impulses, and finding motivation within yourself. 2 other things in this area that might be surprising to you are goal setting and organizational skills. Self-management is all about being able to control you and the environment that you create for yourself. If you're managing yourself well, then you're able to set achievable goals. If you're managing yourself well, then you can also organize yourself and your space in order to help yourself achieve those goals. When I think about this area, I think a lot about myself, actually. This is something that as a student and, frankly, as a teacher, I struggled with a lot. I had a hard time setting goals for myself as a young person, and my organizational skills weren't in place well enough so that when I did have goals, I could actually meet them. This is something that we need to actively teach our students if we want them to be successful learners. Social awareness is essentially the ability to take others' perspectives, empathize with them, and include people from diverse backgrounds. It's respecting others at its core. And it's also the ability to understand that there are social and ethical norms for our behavior. And that in those social and ethical norms, we have family, school, and community resources as supports for that. And we need to take all of these into consideration as we build our idea of what social awareness is for our students. Now, for many of us, as we look at this list, that word empathy probably jumps out a lot. I've spoken with a lot of teachers in terms of student behavior, and many have said, ooh, he just struggles with empathy. He doesn't really get how to identify with others' feelings. That's absolutely a skill that many of us struggle with. And again, it's something that we as teachers need to take on to teach explicitly and implicitly. Relationship skills is the ability to keep and make healthy relationships. This includes how you communicate with others, how you engage others socially, how you go about building relationships, and how you work with others that you're in a relationship with, aka teamwork. Within this, we also see the need to resist inappropriate peer pressure, the ability to negotiate conflict, and the skill of seeking and offering help when needed. Relationship skills are often complex, and they're something that we have taught in schools since the beginning of time, just about. But thanks to Casel, we now have a more firm framework for establishing what relationship skills actually look like and how we can begin to teach those explicit skills to students. Next up is responsible decision making. In responsible decision making, we look at the ability to make constructive choices about our personal behavior that are based on ethical standards, social norms, and safety concerns. This is a realistic evaluation of what will happen as a result of an action. It is a consideration of the well-being of yourself, but also of others. So we're beginning to see now some building of all of these competencies. Responsible decision making absolutely connects to relationship skills and social awareness in many ways. We're seeing empathy here, the need for empathy in order to being able to evaluate how an action might affect others. So I really think that as we look at responsible decision making, we really need to make sure that we're when we think about the why of including SEL in our classrooms, my first step is always to go to the research. What does the research say about SEL? And the research says a lot. The most important piece on this page to me is the meta-analysis. A meta-analysis is essentially a piece of research that analyzes many forms of research done in a particular area and draws the key conclusions from all of that research. Meta-analysis of the research on SEL found that social emotional learning leads to better academic outcomes, improved classroom behavior, improved economic mobility, and it found that employers really enjoy and think highly of key SEL skills. They find them to be more important than most technical skills. Some of these employers include Microsoft, Apple, Bank of America. These are huge corporations that offer many jobs, and they look first to those skills from our social and emotional learning frameworks before they look at those technical skills. This shows us dramatically that SEL matters and has an impact on our students' lives. Research and meta-analysis has also indicated that there are a ton more benefits of SEL. We already know that SEL leads to better behavior in classrooms, but it also leads to fewer disruptions to teaching. And of course, if there's fewer disruptions to teaching, then there's more teaching opportunities. If there's more teaching opportunities, then we'll have happier teachers. Those kind of flow together nicely. Of course, this also leads to stronger communities, both within and without the school. Students who have explicit teaching in SEL also tend to have better grades, and everyone in the school community tends to have lower levels of stress and distress when SEL is implemented. And wouldn't we all like to have less stress at work? Last, before I wrap up this video, I really wanted to stress the importance of social and emotional learning in this time of the COVID-19 pandemic. During this time, social and emotional learning is vital, and our response needs to be urgent. Our students during this time have experienced loss of their friends and family members sometimes, loss of contact with their support systems. Many have also experienced economic stress as their parents have been possibly out of work. They've experienced fear, a loss of control. Some have had some very serious family-based issues, and much, much more. We won't fully understand the stresses and trauma that our students have experienced during this time until we return to school. And when our students return, we as educators need to be prepared to meet that trauma with social and emotional learning, to provide them with the skills and competencies that will allow them to not only grow past this trauma, but to be resilient in the face of future trauma. Here's a few of the references where I got this information. If you are interested in any of these resources, please contact your behavior support specialist team. This PowerPoint will also be available on our BSS website, which is linked below. And if you have any questions, we hope to hear from you. You can contact us at our email at bss@aps.edu, through our website, sites.google.com/aps.edu/bssaps. You can also contact us through our Twitter at APSBSS Team. As always, I encourage you to please like, subscribe, and comment. We would love to hear from you, and let us know what you would like to see out of future content.